That's right. We come back for more. Welcome to another episode of the Tigers Minor League Report, Week 17 recap here at the TigersMLReport.com. I am Rogelio Castillo, alongside Chris Brown and Brandon Day. And just a fair warning to everybody who is expecting us to do a full tour of the minor leagues. That'll probably be one of the last things we do this evening, as the All-Star break is here. There's the Tigers series winning against the Dodgers that we got to a little bit yesterday too. During the draft, of course, day 1 and day 2 of the draft. And there is of course, if you're mad about Tarik Skubal versus Corbin Burns, we'll let you vent about that. We're going to do a little side-by-side there about that. And, yeah, where the Tigers at in the first half of the season. But I want to thank everybody who checked us out yesterday. And, yes, Skubal did get hosed, Samuel. Absolutely. And we'll get to that a little bit shortly. Excuse me there. I just wanted the music. But, yeah, there was a thank you to everybody who streamed the show yesterday at all. It was the longest show ever done. It was the highest viewed show we ever had. Over 10,000 people, 10,000 unique views between Twitter and YouTube. So thank you for everybody. The national anthem got hosed too, Matt. Oh, that was terrible. I didn't listen to it live, but I saw it on Twitter. I went on Twitter right before the show, and then I heard it, and it was like, oh. But yeah, there's plenty of. I was debating whether or not to take the night off, but there is plenty of draft coverage to get to, and so thanks to also our friends over at the Locked On Guardians. Good salted there for people. Justin, I'm a fan of Justin and his work over there. And how many times you been on with all of a sudden I'm drawing a blank
with Jeff?
With Jeff, yeah.
I mean, I used to have Jeff Ellis on back when I was doing like Bad Hop Radio, like 2015 or whatever. I was gonna say it's
almost 10 years now.
Yeah, they're kind of like the Guardians version of us, if you will, a little bit. Yeah. Like, I don't mean to box them in that same thing, but they follow the minors like crazy, and Jeff follows the draft like crazy, and they're also Guardians fans and just good dudes.
Yeah, Jeff is one of the smartest guys I ever met. Like, just his recall memory is just, and it's funny because he was talking earlier. He was like, "Yeah, I had Christian Moore in my mock draft, and then the Locked On Angels guy talked him out of it."
Yeah,
and so we had a good laugh about that. But yeah, there's plenty to get to. I do want to talk about. We will be talking draft heavily. There's day 2 was very interesting for the Tigers. There was a lot of money saving grabs, if you will. So there's a lot of coupon grabbing, whatever you want to call it. And there's some of the names in there we'll discuss, but I did want to talk a little bit about the series with the Dodgers. Brandon, I know that over at Bless You Boys, I mean, I know you've been running around like a madman doing the draft profiles and everything, but the one thing I will say that seems like it was a big theme was Tigers heading into the All-Star break with back-to-back wins on bunts, things that are like Twilight Zone kind of mysterious wins here, but they got it done against a team that, granted, yes, they were hurting a little bit, but you still had to take on Shohei Ohtani and a pretty formidable Dodger lineup.
Yeah, I don't really want to hear too much about like how the Dodgers are banged up. It's like your payroll is like is gargantuan. We're missing Kerry Carpenter over here. We don't have Casey Mize. We're not at 100%. So yeah, they can eat it on that score. But yeah, it was funny. Actually, I mean, going back to the Cleveland series, it was like watching AJ Hinch, embrace all of his inner demons and like decide to intentional walk, Jose Ramirez, and then dropping down bunts and like the stuff that very rarely does he ever do. And in all those circumstances, it was working out for him. So yeah, it was just kind of a funny series because they didn't really play the way that they have most of the year or most of the time under AJ Hinch. So it did kind of stand out a little. We all know that Wenzel Perez can handle the bat, and drop down some bunts and such. But you're just surprised to see him do it, because even in extra innings, on multiple occasions, they've decided, maybe rightly, that it's better to have 3 cracks at a single that drives in the run than to try to move the runner over to hope for a sacrifice fly. That might play into it. I couldn't help think of Miguel Cabrera setting people up in a meaningless at bat in a game early in the year. He's not going to swing at your changeup. He's going to just keep taking it and look fooled, and then you meet him up again in September in a playoff chase, and all of a sudden he's been sitting on that thing waiting for it all year. So maybe AJ is just setting some traps for later. But either way, it was obviously a really fun series. It was good to see Maeda come back and useful, pumping 94 out there like a monster. And overall really good. I think to tie, the one real downside to the whole series was Wenzel Perez dropping that fly ball off his wrist, because they probably would have saved 2 runs there, and Skubal's ERA would be lower, and Bruce Bochy would like that better.
Yeah, there was a joke that I told the guys about, I went to the game in the press box on Saturday. It was the first time I got to go in a while, and the running joke is that Bruce Bochy's not going to. I asked, I forgot who I was talking to. I think it was Dickerson. It was Dickerson and Evan and Petzold, and I was a bunch of people. And I go, "Hey, wait, you think he's gonna look at his FIP?" And they're all looking at me like, started laughing, like, "You think Bochy's knowing about FIP?" But it was just a tongue in cheek joke. But there was
I'm sure he knows what it is, but not his forte there. No.
Yeah, it's the same guy, by the way. I think Pete Alonso's coach is the same guy that's helped him win all those Derby titles back to back. Correct?
His pitcher. Yeah. I forgot the guy. Yeah, but the pitcher he always brings for the Derby.
Yeah.
I don't know who it is, though.
Yeah, I forgot who it was.
I'm not watching it either. I can't. I'm scatterbrained enough after the last couple of days to try to watch anything live while we're doing this. Just not going to work.
I have it streaming in the background, so it's just have it going. So if people ask, I did put in there that want to watch the home run derby with us. Great if you have it on in the background. But another all-time screw job, the Montreal screw job, of course, but also the Calvin Johnson. It should have been a catch against the Bears. That's also a big-time screw job. But I think as far as Skubal, we might as well get into it. Let's just kind of look at this, because we are watching people are watching the home run derby. All-Star game is tomorrow, and they're doing the jerseys, which I really want. If there's one thing I wish I'm being an old man about, is I really wish they would bring back the teams would wear the jerseys that their home and away jerseys. This is such a simpler thing to do, and it looked cool. Some of these jerseys, I can't remember an all-star jersey. I'm like, man, that's really cool. I can't think of one, because even the hats were stupid. I thought the hats, I don't know. I think the American League one looks kind of cool, but I don't know.
And it just kind of makes it, it's just kind of a weird thing to make it about the team when it's the all-star game, like any other time. Yes. But, you want to see a couple guys in a white uni out there with the Old English D on it. Everybody wants to be able to follow their guys. You put them all in the same uniform, and it can get a little bit like the World Baseball Classic, where I don't instantly recognize Manny Machado, for example, or something, where it just sort of mutes down the individuality, which, is, you'd think, is kind of what they're aiming for. We've got the players weekend jerseys. You've got all this, kind of push to the futures game and all that stuff to, try to show who these guys are and sell the game. And then, it's just about selling another jersey is what it comes down to. So be it. But these are the times we live in, unfortunately. Nothing is sacred, guys.
Yeah, nothing is sacred. Nothing is sacred, and nothing allows me to play the audio that I want to play for my damn segment. Oh well. Anyway, all right. So the tail of the tape here. Ultimately it was going down to Tarik Skubal versus Corbin Burns to see who would get the All-Star break. So we're not doing our segments this evening, like our inside numbers or anything, but gentlemen, it's not that. It's really Corbin Burns. The Corbin Burns deal or who they got for ball or wow, I cannot talk. This is 5 hours from yesterday. Corbin Burns has pitched very well since he came to Baltimore. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Skeens versus Verlander. Skeens versus Skubal, that to me, I mean, you're going to give Paul Skeens a nod, and there's a couple guys in the NL maybe close to having a good season, but you're not going to give Tarik Skubal a nod? I don't get it. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just kind of weird because it would have been such a fun matchup to see, Skubal versus Skeens and these two guys airing it out at 100. Burns is really good, and he's been good for a long time. But, there isn't a single metric really that says Burns is better than Skubal this year. It's not like a big difference, but Skubal's got him in most categories, and I just think is just naturally more exciting to watch. But Bruce Bochy's probably just literally going on vibes. I haven't even looked at the National League lineup either. Is there a bunch of right-handers? Yeah, well, no, it's a pretty good mix. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, you're getting Ashley. You're getting Ashley to come out of retirement on Twitter to put something out there. Tweet out something. I haven't seen her tweet out anything in a long time, and all of a sudden, Ashley's coming out of nowhere and saying something. So,
yeah, that got her for sure. Yeah, and most of the time she avoids social media these days after our experiences on the podcast back in the day.
I mean, honestly, I think it's that Corbin Burns has won a Cy Young before, and he's more known than Skubal. And also, I did see one conspiracy theory that Texas plays Baltimore shortly after the All-Star break. So he's like, just time out a little bit, or maybe something goes wrong. I don't know. That seems a bit much, but I don't know. Who knows what managers think.
Yeah.
We get to see Skubal,
especially one like
Bochy.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, as long as Skubal gets his inning in, and doesn't get hurt, and that's all that we care about. You just want him to go out there, shove through 3 batters, and call it a day. Just have your moment in the sun, get out of there. Riley hits a dinger, and then we go back to normal and wait for baseball to start again. That would be ideal for me.
Is Burns a free agent? I can't remember if he is or not. Somebody asked.
He is after this year.
Okay, so
yeah. I mean, he's one of the big dogs on the free agent market next year. One of these days, we will sit down and talk about next year's free agent class because it's pretty strong. Maybe not, it doesn't have, well, it does. It has Soto. It doesn't, I was going to say it doesn't have the Ohtani, but it's got a Soto. And it's got a much better second and third tier than last year. So, I don't know, but now's not the time or the place.
Yeah.
What is this, a baseball podcast? Get out of here.
Well, I mean, we can go either the first half recap or we can go MLB draft recap. Which one would you guys like to go?
Let's stick with the Tigers for right now, and we can the draft. We probably go on for a while. I think my impressions of the first half, when you look back at the sum total of things, it feels kind of like what we expected. It just got there in a much stranger way than I hoped. Like I was like, Colt Keith's going to be a really good hitter, and they're going to, Riley Green's going to take a step forward, and Skubal's going to take a step forward, and and then along the way, they lost to Torkelson and a Carpenter, and Maeda blew up, and Flaherty was, basically as good as anyone could have possibly hoped. And the bullpen fell apart, and here they are, 3 games under 500. I don't know. It didn't happen the way I thought it would, but this is basically the kind of team I thought they'd be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to kind of second that. My take on the season was that if they got off to a good start and stayed healthy, they might be able to gain enough ground where their younger talent could start feeding in as the season went along and would help them out and could help, kind of buoy them so that, you're not playing Gio Urshela and Mark Canha, like they're almost full-time players, which is kind of where we're at. And I mean, it's more or less played out that way. I kind of felt like we were cooked though once we got to, Carpenter's injury, and they hadn't really done that much with a team that was really healthy while a lot of other teams around are pretty banged up, and they just didn't get far enough ahead with that. I still expect them to finish strong. This will probably look a lot like it did last year, unfortunately. It's kind of setting up for like a little bit better total result, but very similar like theme of like scuffling, falling apart in June again with another Carpenter injury, and then like starting to right the ship, figure out the pitching, figure out the bullpen a little bit better, and kind of go from there. But I don't know that we're going to see a whole lot, in terms of additions. We all think, probably Jace Young's going to get a look, and, we've seen Kader Montero. Maybe we'll see Madden or or Herder go into the bullpen or something like that. Depends who gets traded, and I think we'll see Dingler. But I don't know. It's just kind of awkward because I could get really excited about the second half, but we just don't know. I just have so like murky an impression of what the Tigers are planning to do next year that I just don't know how. I can't get excited anymore, I guess is what I'm saying, until I see them make a really big move. So we're just going to kind of ride it out and hope they have something in mind and aren't going to keep wasting all this pitching like idiots for another season. But yeah, but a lot of things are going right. Wenzel's, kind of proven himself a pretty solid, backup player and a guy who can fill in for you and do a lot of different things. Malloy's hitting so far has done a little better than I expected he would out of the gate. Stumbled at first, but it has been going okay. So, there's all those positives. And obviously Riley is, Riley, and Colt Keith is now Colt Keith, which, maybe took a little bit longer than some of us thought, but, he's absolutely raking right now. So there's a lot of positives going on. There's some interesting questions like, do you keep Kelly or do you try to extend Kelly and trade Jake Rogers? Can the Tigers find any kind of a bat for Jack Flaherty? All those things are going to come up pretty shortly. But, as far as the first half goes, it kind of played out a lot like we thought, I think. It just, I just thought the bullpen might be a little bit better just because of the depth. Even though they, don't really have an actual like closer type, traditional closer, dominant reliever type. But yeah, so all those things are kind of tracking, I think, as expected.
I expected the bullpen to have more swing and miss stuff. That's what I expected out of the bullpen. As far as the rest of the season goes, I think that this is what you're seeing the young guys play, which is something that wasn't the case last year, but you're seeing that more and more. Cole Keith is what I expected him to be. He was going to struggle, and then he was going to pick it up. And for anybody, here's the thing, and this is one. There's a lot of things that I get really passionate about, and I get fired up about. But the one thing I've been consistent about is just wait on Keith. Just wait on Keith. I haven't wavered on that. Mm-hmm. And I mean, the reason why I posted on Twitter the Lenny Rico thing. The reason I was pointing it out is because we had the tendency to have our hair on fire for a lot of things. This team is under 500 team. This was not going to be a team that was going to contend for the playoffs. Let's not kid ourselves. But if there's one thing that I knew it was going to be, it was Cole Keith was going to be a good baseball player. They wouldn't give him that money, that guaranteed deal, if he wasn't. And I know you're sitting there saying, well, I mean, he was going to sign it because he wanted to do that, and that's great and all. But then the ability was there. The ability, I mean, he like anybody that came up through the minors, out of any like Torkelson, which we'll get to in a second, Riley Green, he mashed at every level, no questions asked. He did what he was supposed to do. It's beyond for people not to be patient about Cole Keith. You weren't watching baseball. I'm sorry. I mean, if you're a casual fan, great. Then I'm sorry. As a casual fan, then I understand that you don't have enough of a sample size there. But I mean, the fact that
this team's going to give you endless heartburn if you can't handle waiting for prospects to grow, because I mean that's what it's going to be for the most part. So
yeah, you're right. I mean,
up,
yeah, like I have a whole thing of Pepto-Bismol in my fridge, like for a reason. There's just like I go through that stuff a week. Like all jokes aside, I mean this team, if you're waiting for the prospect side of things, this is the first time we're seeing guys like more than just like I know people are like, oh, it's just Riley Green and Cole Keith. Well, Winfield Perez is batting, he's holding water. I mean, he's got a good OPS. I mean, it's not like he's doing this in part-time duty either. He's going out there and just putting him wherever he needs to, and he gets the job done. We're starting to see some signs from Malloy. The biggest thing I'm disappointed with outside of the bullpen is really the lack of, I think it's the maddening consistency of like the starting rotation a little bit. What I mean by that is that outside of Skubal and Flaherty, it's been kind of like a hodgepodge of like you don't really know. Like, I mean, one day Casey Mize goes out there, there's no swing and miss stuff still, and the next, he's injured, and so the injuries and just Montero's been great, but he's also terribly inconsistent, and that to me is the part that I had the greatest fear with, because then there's injuries to Flores, and you have Flores, who knows when he's coming back down in the minor leagues. Ty Madden is one of those cases where he's just like he makes 2 steps forward, takes 3 steps back. And then, Brant Hurdler, you expected something to come out of that and step up this year. It's been I mean, then the big elephant in the room is Spencer Torkelson. You wonder how much this team would be better if Spencer Torkelson was at least a 2-WAR player. If it was a 2-WAR player, this team would be in the playoffs in contention right now. And something that I think it was Steve that mentioned in the chat, Steven mentioned, is I also did not expect this division to be so much better than it was. The Royals traded for a guy. They got Hunter Harvey, a guy who I really wanted the Tigers to go after because he had a couple years club control left, and he would have cost you just not. I mean, I think it cost the Royals a compensation pick and some cat or a player. I think it was a small move to keep you afloat to help your bullpen out. The Twins are playing what we expect them to, and they're striking out less. And now Cleveland, I'm not scared of Cleveland. After watching the whole series of Cleveland, I'm not really scared of Cleveland. Cleveland's rotation's garbage. I mean, it's not. I don't want to say garbage, but it is garbage.
It's not nearly the old, not nearly the old Cleveland rotations. That's for sure.
Yeah, but that's where I right now. You still have a lot of questions. I mean, the next couple of weeks, what they do with Flaherty at the trade deadline, and then hearing that essentially, unless you're giving a whole boatload of prospects, like really, like literally, your top tier prospects, you're not getting Skubal's not going anywhere. Tigers are not going to listen to garbage proposals. They know their value is. So rest assured on that. Rest assured on some of that. So. Yeah, I mean, the Tarik or the Spencer Torkelson stuff is just his numbers not getting better in Toledo either. It's
no. And if you look through the Tigers lineup, I mean, left-handed hitters doing great. I think we're top 10 in terms of our left-handed hitting production. Right-handed hitters, in the bottom third, and that and the bullpen kind of tells the story of the season that there has to be some right-handed bats. I mean, just between Carpenter, Keith, and Riley, there isn't another team in the division that has 3 better bats than that. You could argue the Twins maybe, depending on how you feel, but that's it. And the Tigers have the rotation between, Skubal, Flaherty, Olsen, and it's true. The back end of the bullpen has been or the rotation has been a bit of a crapshoot so far this season, but I kind of expect that to, sort itself out to some degree as well as we go along. So, I mean, we said this a lot, but the problems are pretty glaringly obvious, and they're so bad that they don't necessarily require like an all-star type solution either. So it's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, I've been toying with the idea. It feels like mean at this point, but I was going to put out, Spencer Torkelson's career numbers at both the big league level and at AAA, because he's now at like a 235 career AAA hitter. With like a 760 OPS in 100 plus games. He should have been down there probably longer. I understand that they felt like they really needed to get him up 2 years ago. Who knows what kind of development issues that may or may not have caused. I think there is reason to believe that he needs to like completely rebuild his swing. There's still like things there that you would think would work. The raw power is still there, and I think he has a pretty decent eye, right? Like just in general, doesn't chase a ton, but something in his swing or whatever he has is a trigger mechanism just doesn't work, doesn't let him hit. And I don't know if he's willing to do that or capable of doing that. Changing your swing like that is a tough thing. Not everybody could be JD Martinez or, Marlon Byrd or Justin Turner or whomever who, changed your swing and found a career. But I think he's going to have to be one of those guys to have a legit big league career.
And he kind of fits with Manning too. Like the two of them are down there, and it's guys that have had kind of the same issues for a couple of years and haven't been able to find solutions. And it really does kind of feel like the Tigers are like, look, you're just going to stay there. You can rot until you're willing to like do what we're telling you to do. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, with Manning, but I really thought I'll give them some credit because I really thought they would send Torkelson down, and if he had like a good weekend, he'd be right back up. And they have stuck with whatever the plan is, they've stuck with it. I can't really say what exactly they're trying to fix. We've seen them like maybe narrowing his stance a little bit, like trying to be a little more mobile, trying to stay closed, trying to go oppo a little bit. Like, you see little bits of that, but there's no comprehensive, overhaul going on yet. So yeah, I mean, that's been the huge disappointment this season. And I don't know. I think all of us have been pretty good over the past couple of years about, cooling people off on Spencer Torkelson, and that, our expectation was more of like a 2 to 3 WAR first baseman as sort of his ceiling. He was never a really good pure hitter. I've had so many like interviews on the radio and, conversations with people where they just could not. Everyone has just internalized 1-1 and Spencer Torkelson to such a degree that when you tell them like, no, Colt Keith was always a way better pure hitter and has, pretty similar raw power, it's just baffling, and I can understand why they all feel like they've been lied to, but that's why you listen to us.
Yeah. we got to keep it real. And that's, again, I remember the amount of grief that Chris has gotten about Spencer Torkelson is astonishing to me, because it was just the moment he had success, there was just like, oh, see, Chris isn't really talking about it. It's like, well, look, it's still underlying metrics. The underlying metrics were still there. It wasn't, those numbers never changed.
Well, I mean, what was so weird about last year is that, that first month, 6 weeks or whatever, when he wasn't having any success, the underlying numbers were there. He was like he was hitting the ball really hard and was running into a lot of bad luck. And then the success came, and it felt kind of like, all right, he's figured it out. Here's the next step. And then it just kind of disappeared again. And I don't know, like in his defense, again, I understand why when you have a couple months like that in the big leagues, why you wouldn't want to change too much. But at some point, you got to go, man, this is not working. I'm hitting 235 in Toledo. I'm watching fun walk-off wins in the big leagues on TV. Something's got to change. But I think Lynn Henning wrote an article, and he basically said, like, he can't fix this in season. It's something you got to do in the off season.
Lynn's right, though.
He is, but
I think
also
that's a pretty good point.
But I would also say this, like, what? Okay, take 2 weeks off from Toledo. Take a month off from Toledo. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's the minor leagues. Go down to Lakeland and completely rebuild it. But who knows?
And the other part of that too is that the only way to test it is against velocity, and you're not going to see real pitching and real velocity except in Toledo. I mean, you're not going to see a lot of it, but I don't know. I can kind of see that both ways, but I do think, like if you're going to overhaul him, just take him down for some extended spring training, like they do with a lot of guys. Put him through his paces. We've seen them do this with Christian Santana. Why not
hot ready camp?
Why not Torkelson? Yeah. And then bring him back for 2 months and kind of see how it goes. But I don't know. It's not very encouraging. I have to say, like, I don't feel, like you say, when you've seen someone do it, it's easier to believe that they can come back and do it again. But it doesn't seem like he can do it the same way. Like it's just never going to be a consistent thing with him. He's going to, turn on pitches for a couple months and beat guys inside if that's all he focuses on. But he's going to hit 210 with, 25 home runs a year that way while playing a bad first base. It's just like to build the kind of player that you have to like lock him in at first base. He's got to get a lot better in almost every area because he's just easily replaceable. And that, and that's the other thing. You could go get a mediocre first baseman with no, like it doesn't cost anything almost, mediocre first baseman everywhere.
Mr. Act Like It here on YouTube said, not to pile on, but his defensive metrics are also bad. They're bad also. Hope he's working on that too. I completely agree with that too. And then YouTube user said, it's not like Chris doesn't want him to be good. We're not rooting against him. We're not rooting. We don't ever root. Listen, we never root against these players at all, period.
Torkelson not working out thus far has made all our lives harder. It would have been awesome if he was the Chris Bryant that was promised, right? Like the Tigers would be winning 4 or 5 more games.
Or Jim Thome swing.
Yeah, it was, no, it was Konerko, right? The Konerko swing or the Mark Teixeira, like all these things that we hoped for or whatever that just weren't reality. And I was telling my buddy today, and I've told the story many times on the podcast, we don't need to, but basically it was evident from the first time we saw him in pro ball. We're like, this doesn't look like what we were supposed to see. And it never really did, I guess, until that couple months last year, but far, far less.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it,
go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, at Toledo, like late the year, late in, his AAA campaign, 2021, we were all starting to see him go oppo. Like he started to hit the ball hard to the opposite field. And that was the first time that I started to calm down and feel like, okay, I'm, all these other people who know more than me are going to be right. I'm being ridiculous. And, it's just never been there. He's never hit the ball hard to the opposite field really since then. Very rarely. We see a little bit, but yeah, I mean, there's just not that much plate coverage. He swings and misses a ton at fastballs. He can't handle velocity. I don't really know where you go from that except to like really, really, break the dude down and hope that he's willing to make some serious changes. Cause it just, this isn't a tweak away from coming together. It just doesn't seem like that's the case.
Yeah. And it was a funny joke that we got a chance to talk to Greg Gagne, the voice of the Erie Seals, who was in town to do the Tigers game. And we're just joking around about, well, if Spencer Torkelson gets called up, that means Erie's screwed because Jake Holton's the only first baseman sitting right now down in Erie. And so, but then it's also the reality of the situation is the Tigers right now, as somebody mentioned in the chat, that they're using the ghost of Mark Canha. I mean, Deadly Ninja Bees, we're better off using the ghost of Mark Canha at first base. But I will, and Ray O'Connell makes a good point. Gio Urshela, I don't know why I cannot talk this evening, made some plays against the Dodgers that Torkelson would not made. And you know what? So did Andy Baez. Looked really good at first base too. I mean, he has some good plays as well. Where I think it was Friday. I can't remember Friday or Saturday. I don't. Maybe it was the weekend. They're all blended together, but I know he played first base, and there was a couple times where he had to do a turn. Like I know, it was Saturday, where he made a nice grab and turn the play at second. So I don't know. It's just the Tigers are kind of hosed at first base right now as it stands, as organizationally speaking. I mean, they don't really have. You go down past that. I mean, Holton's good, but I mean, again, is he a 4A player or not? You don't know. West Michigan there's been a carousel guys playing first base. Luke Gold, I think.
They had, I don't know if Turney played first base at all, but they had Jenkins was there before he got hurt. It's not a position of strength. I'm to be honest with you, I'm sure AJ Hinch would love Yordan Alvarez playing first base for him or something like that, right? That's just a monster. But I think he doesn't necessarily mind as long as he has guys who can play the position, like mixing and matching a little bit. Yeah. But that's usually a position where you want a lot of offensive production. But
I think with the shift, with the shift gone now, or at least or reduced, I do think defense at first base is more valuable than it used to be again. We're back to like the Eric Hosmer profile where I'm like, when Eric Hosmer was a good defender, he was actually like a useful first baseman. Even though, any of us who looked at his underlying metrics were always just like, how is that dude playing first base? But, they made that work, and, it maybe the position will kind of change that way, but it'd be a lot better if, we just had Pete Alonso over there or Yordan Alvarez or whoever. They're just in a position where right now, they might as well, because, Keith doesn't have particularly good range at second. So if you can cover, the line more effectively, and, that's what the Tigers are all about defensively, is preventing extra base hits. So if you can hold the line there and play it like the hot corner and hit, to an average level, that's probably about as good as we're going to do this season, at least. Maybe next.
Jonathan's idea about putting Keith at first and Claudio on the play second, that's not a bad idea, but the problem is that Young, I'm not sure if he's entirely ready for the MLB either. I mean, some of the numbers are indicating that he is struggling with some of the like sliders and advanced speed, but also I'm with Deadly Ninja Beaters. Keith had a pretty good series defensively at second this weekend. I think his defensive metrics have been better to me on the surface.
I haven't given up on him yet.
Yeah, and that's the sort of thing you actually don't do in the middle of a season. I don't think you're like, all right, Keith, good job, playing second for the first time full time in your career. Now move to first. So
don't mess with the rookie hitter.
I don't think you do that just yet. That you could try it in the off season. But yeah, I agree. Like we've seen, Keith is a better athlete than he was given credit for. I don't know if he's ever going to be more than kind of fringe average overall defensively. But if you have a fringe average defensive second baseman who's hitting, 280 to 300 the way he has been for the last 10 weeks with power, and the patience is coming, you live with that just fine. You take a little bit of the knock on defense for that plus offensive ability from the position. Of course, if he hits like that, he could also play first base. But I don't know. People mentioned Malloy. Malloy, I think, played one game or a handful of games at first base with Vanderbilt, maybe, but not in pro ball as far as I'm aware. And I don't know with him, that his hands weren't great at third base. I don't know if that's an issue, that they've talked about putting Vierling at first, right? But he hasn't played there yet, as far as I can tell. So I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit harder
Which
than we
seems
think.
weird because his Vierling's best attribute is his speed and his arm.
Yeah.
He doesn't have particularly good hands at third base either. He's made some really nice plays, but he also olays a ball seemingly every other game. So he's okay there. It's not he's not killing you as long as he's hitting. But there isn't really like a guy that feels like the natural solution there. Keith does make sense to me too, and if they want to try that this off season. Especially if Young can come on and make his way up here and show a little bit, maybe then there's your right side of the infield going forward. Possible. Or you bring up Dingler and I don't know, maybe just rotate the catchers through there. I don't know.
When we're still kind of recapping the season. We talk a lot about Torkelson and Keith here and stuff. Some of the other interesting things. It seems like Reese Olson has taken that next step, at least a step. He's not striking out a ton of guys, but he's really pitching well. And outside of a couple rough outings, he's been really strong this year. And we've seen the flashes with Montero. Certainly, that his last outing against the Dodgers was a little bit more kind of what I expected from him this year. Before those two really good starts he had, where he basically he seemed like he was a little bit scared of the Dodgers and was kind of nibbling. And then when he had to throw strikes, he either put them down the middle or couldn't, and that led to the trouble that he ran into. And I think that's just going to be some learning from him. He's just going to have to really learn to just trust your stuff, dude. It's pretty damn good stuff, and hopefully that'll come with time.
And he talked about that.
Yeah,
and he talked a lot about that. Like that the confidence, that's come from, seeing himself able to throw the fastball right by some guys. He dropped that curveball in and got a whiff from Ohtani. That had to feel good. But yeah, I mean, this isn't unique to Montero at all. But yeah, I mean, most guys who have the stuff. The challenge is pitching under pressure, pitching in traffic, making pitches when you have to. And, he's done that in a couple starts and then against the Dodgers kind of regressed a little bit, but not terribly surprising. I wrote that article going into that, basically just punning off the idea that, it's all his to command. If his command comes along and he learns to trust his stuff, I think you've got a mid-rotation starting pitcher right there. But, if not, it's there's still a decent chance that maybe he can't figure that out. So we'll see how it goes. But I hope to see him a lot down the stretch. That moving Maeda to the bullpen, I think opens that up for him even more. And the more he gets to work with Fetter and Lund, the better I think he's going to get.
So that we did ask Hinch about that. We see Montero will definitely be around in the second half of the season. And one question I did ask Montero on Saturday was he was throwing that knuckle curve more. That was I think one of the highest games where he was throwing that curve, and that was the one he got Ohtani on. And I asked him about his comfortability with the pitch, and he said that because the debate in the press box was, what's his third pitch? Is it, he was talking about, is it the changeup? Is it the fastball and slider? Is it that knuckle curve? And I was at somebody who asked me about it. What was the third pitch in Erie and Toledo? I said, well, I mean, really, it was any given night. In Erie, it was a changeup. Sometimes in West Michigan was. It depended on the comfortability, and that's what he's saying. Afterwards, and we had Carlos Skian translate that. Essentially, he's been feeling comfortable throwing all of them, and it's just a matter of sequencing at this point for him. And there is the biggest thing that I've taken away from Montero compared to Manning, because there was another thing that somebody over the weekend was talking to a fan, and they were like, well, they were saying, I think, well, Manning should get another chance in rotation versus Montero, and the track history. I'm like, I don't know. There's even struggling against the Dodgers. He wasn't. I mean, he did get. I mean, that home run aside, there's a couple times he wasn't hanging those pitches like he was in the previous starts over the zone. He's learning and adapting quicker, I think, and I think he's going to be a key cog to kind of figure out the rotation for the rest of the year, but also next year. I mean, if you have a Montero along with Olsen, and Chris, I'm glad you mentioned Olsen, because the biggest thing about Reese Olson to me is a guy who goes out there and is now giving you he's not giving you those long ass innings either. I mean, he's giving you more efficient innings when he's going out there, because last year, one of the biggest things was the teams were able to drive a pitch count on him, and he had long innings. So, I mean, you're going out there with his pitch run value is in the 80th percentile. fastball. It's just like all those pitches, but the chase is that part right there. 32% chase rate. That's insane.
Yeah,
and I don't think
and the changeup was a big part of that too.
Yeah, I mean, again, teams are only barreling up 5.4% against the pitches. I mean, it's like it is. It's mind-boggling, and so I don't think he's talked about enough. I mean, you're going out there with a wit, like, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's the problem with being in a rotation with Skubal, who's might be the best pitcher in baseball, and then Flaherty, who's one of the best strikeout pitchers in baseball here, with a big comeback year, and also Olsen never talks and just looks kind of quiet and just kind of he's around like it's kind of reminds me of back in the day, like you had Anibal Sanchez was the third guy behind Verlander and Scherzer, and he was amazing, but you had Verlander and Scherzer ahead of him, and it's like, well, yeah, sorry, we're not going to appreciate you as much. Until the 1 year he won the ERA title. That's
probably true. Reese Olson was on the Take a Seat podcast or Have a Seat podcast, whatever it is, with Benetti and Dickerson, and it was really interesting to listen to him, actually. Very likable person, but it just stood out because it was the first time I've really ever heard him speak, at any length. So yeah, he does just kind of fly under the radar, and maybe he likes it that way. But yeah, it's kind of funny to hear. He's like mild mannered, but then he's got all these sort of bulldog little brother traits where he was like the squat god in the gym,
that's right,
during COVID, all this kind of stuff. So yeah, kind of funny. A lot more, a dude that you can't judge by the cover for sure. Because I mean, you look at the rosy cheeks and kind of fluffy curly hair and unassuming build for a major league starting pitcher at this point, and don't think that much of him. And then it's just nasty stuff of all sorts coming at you. God, that changeup is good, guys.
Yeah, I remember we the first time we saw him in person and talked to him was in Erie, probably late May 2021.
Yes,
I think because it was the day
that was the year that you broke the strikeout record in Erie.
Yeah, and it was the year was it be 21 or 20? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's 22. It was the game.
It was 2022. I'm sorry, it was 2022. Yeah,
Carpenter hit 2 home runs and 2 doubles in the same game, and Olsen was out there and threw an immaculate inning right in front of us. And then we talked to him, and he looks even younger in person. I was like, good Lord, this kid is he's like 5'10", like 160 pounds, but throwing 96. I don't know, it's wild.
What's wild to me is that it kind of leads into the draft discussion too. This is a guy, a prep arm out of high school, drafted in the 13th round. And I mean, you think about,
that's a good point.
It's like this is like the Brewers. Don't get me wrong, the Brewers deserve a fair share of the development factor because they are notoriously known. They're notoriously known for building up velocity. Oh yeah, I saw that they're interested in the chat. But then Tigers did the finishing job or just did the polish job and everything. And so that to me is when you look at some of the high school arms that were taken, we'll hear in a second. This is
a transition period,
yeah. It is a transition into really what the Tigers did yesterday. And I know there's some people that are upset about who the Tigers drafted, but here's why. I mean, here's the reason why you should get excited a little bit, because here's the Tigers draft. Owen Hall came in really highly regarded. We'll get to Owen Hall here in a second too. But all these names in here, but
let's just go right down the line.
Yeah, let's go right down the line.
Down the line.
Yeah, let's start with Bryce Rainer, who we yesterday in the presser. There was Detroit literally just judging by the presser, just judging by the conversation. The Tigers were like, "Holy crap, he's here at 11." And Tim Palmer, that's a good joke there. He was saying, "My wife knows nothing about baseball. When Olsen pitches, she goes, ooh, babyface is pitching." No, so the vibe that I got, again, just talking to Bryce in the press conference yesterday, Tigers were interested in him, but they didn't think they had a chance. Then the Christian Moore pick by the Angels happened, and then that just set everything else in motion. Because there was a lot of talk about, I forgot the name that the Angel. It was Braden Montgomery, who was rumored to be going to for the Angels, but no, this is the guy Chris wanted. So Chris, take it away. I'll let you bask in the glow of this one.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to say like I would have taken him number 1 in the draft, but I probably would have taken him 4th or 5th. after like Condon, Bazana, and Weatherholt, and maybe one of the other hitters, as much as the pitchers look electric, they both scare me quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, he was the guy I wanted. It's the big bodied shortstop, and just a lot to like there, man. Like, I guess you start with the defense because he looks like he's going to stick at shortstop, which is a big thing. Tigers don't ever draft shortstops. He's got a huge arm, like a 70 grade arm, legit mid-90s pitcher off the mound. Like that was, a lot of people thought he was going to be a pitcher. He just doesn't want to because he had mid-90s and a good curveball. So it's a huge arm, and there's big time power potential there. I think like it's already kind of a plus raw. He doesn't necessarily get to it. He's got a really interesting ability to hit for power the opposite way, and you hope that he can grow into hitting, center and pull field more. And the only like real question is about the hitting, but I don't think it's like is he going to hit at all? It's like, is he going to be a 220 hitter or a 240 hitter or 260 hitter? Like it's not really sure yet. And I've been scouring the internet, going back and watching games from showcase circuits and things like that. And you see his swing from last summer on the showcase circuit was a little bit long, and not necessarily, it felt like he would get beat by velocity in and up. And then this spring, there are a couple of highlights of him, and it's a shorter, quicker swing. And I think he's going to hit pretty well. And so you're looking at just about everything you want from a player here. Obviously, he's got to go out and do it. But I mean, the comps for a kid like this get kind of scary. Like you don't want to mention them because there's such good players. It's like Corey Seager and Gunnar Henderson. But you could always douse that with saying like, okay, well, he could be Reed Brignac. People probably don't even know who that is, and there's a reason.
Did you say Kingston? Oh, you said Kingston.
Not Kingston Linnea. No, Reed Brignac.
Don't you dare say that, Chris.
Well, he was a top 100, like top 50 prospect for the Rays back in the day as a big, shortstop with power, and it just didn't work out for him. But like I think there's a ton of upside here, and I was really happy with the pick.
Yeah, and like to address the couple of minor concerns. I mean, that's kind of what his coach talked about, was the fact that he realized he needed to improve his bat speed. He needed to flatten things out just a little bit to be more of like a line drive, low fly ball hitter, and and not be losing his and not be tipping back basically and reverse pivoting too much. And he went and did some of that. And I really think what it comes down to is just bat speed. Can he build a little more bat speed and handle velocity as he gets stronger? But he looks like he has plenty of room to get significantly stronger. And it's just and I think shortstop, I've seen some people question like, okay, when he gets bigger, is he still going to have the lateral movement to be able to play shortstop? He just has to want it. If he puts the work in to do that, I think he'll be fine. Carlos Correa doesn't have, particularly good lateral motion. Neither does Corey Seager, but both of them can throw. And, Rayner throws as well or better than either of them ever have. So he's got that going for him. And then, you get, what a lot of people thought was the top, prep prospect in the draft and one of the top 5 guys. And it's a left-handed hitting shortstop. Okay. I did not think he was coming anywhere close to us. I didn't even I had just written him off. I thought maybe we might get a little taste at Griffin, who maybe has, similar, maybe even a touch more upside, but more risk. I thought there might be a chance of that. And I was pretty much like, I just hope they take Theo Gillen, because I just don't really love any of these college hitters. And the Tigers did not love any college hitters either, really.
No. Yeah, apparently not. Yeah. I think you make a good point. The arm strength is going to help the range a little bit, even if he slows down a step, because he's going to be able to make that up. But like, he's a good athlete. Like he's got 6'5", 60-yard dash.
Yeah.
I was watching the high school All-American game from last year. He walked in all 3 of his at-bats, like never chased, and then stole second and third at one point stole second off a lefty, which was kind of good. I think he's an average runner to like first, but underway, he's probably plus. So I don't know. It's a good athlete, power potential, good defense. You hope the hitting comes along. I'm not smart enough to know if it will, but if it does, you got potential star. So.
Oh, this is a high school facility. You look at it, ladies and gentlemen. So Harvard of Westlake. I mean, this is an expensive ass school. Somebody was telling us like 600.
They got some nice alumni.
Yeah.
All the Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, that's a high school field there. That is just insane to me. Is
that Lucas Giolito Field, or is that Jake Gyllenhaal Field?
Here he is in game action, so people get a better glimpse.
Oh, I think he hits a home run here. Not to spoiler alert.
Not there.
No, it's I want to say it's like the 5th or 6th pitch. It looks like a fastball running away from him, and he just barrels it up.
I asked him, I asked him the same thing about it was funny watching. Lynn was trying to ask him a question about whether or not he was adapted to the wooden bats. It was the way he went about the question too. Really, there it is. It was just a really weird way he phrased the question. It was funny. Here it is, slow motion.
Yeah.
Was he talking a lot about his wrists?
Yes.
Do you have thick wrists, kid?
Your
wrist phone.
The typical question is, what do you know about Detroit? Your Tigers or all that. And so,
ever had a Lafayette Coney Island?
I was waiting for that question. I kid you not. I thought that perhaps, what's his face?
Do you know that Detroit has the best pizza and New York pizza sucks? Chicago pizza sucks.
Oh, there you go. That's Rainer running against Dante Nori, who of course went. Nori went a couple picks later. Nori ran a 6.15 60 there, and Rainer was like hanging with him.
That was not that fast, but Phillies had a really interesting draft, by the way. I mean, I didn't know Nori to go that high in the draft, but
I don't think anybody did. Yeah, that was kind of a shocker.
Because it's funny because when I text my sister, because my sister is friends with his mom, they went to high school together.
Mm-hmm.
And she just dropped him off at college. So that's what that was something I had to double check that yesterday because I was like, wait, what? And so
but that's Dombrowski's been pulling people out of college for years now. Oh, you want to go to college, but no, have this $5 million.
Although I will say this, LSU, the alumni at the LSU is a proud one, and whoever the boosters are over there, they're just like, oh, you think you're going in the because that's another new thing now with the NIL money.
Oh yeah, you don't have to. You don't even have to pretend to hide the money in a sandwich bag now. You just
or a car dealership.
Here you go.
Yeah, LSU's like, nope, you're not going. There was it William Schmidt? Nope, you're not going. And there was I think another
Cade Arambeed, the catcher. They got a bunch of good talent, but excited about Rainer. Obviously. One of the bummers we talked about a couple times. We're probably not going to see him at all in any kind of pro baseball this year. Probably not any of these top 3 picks, which is like, well, all right, well, see you next year, kids. But good fun pick there. And then they go upside again with the next pick, Owen Hall, the right-hander from Oklahoma. Really, really interesting pick here. I kind of dig it, but I'd like Brandon to talk about pitchers, so I want to hear what he thinks.
Yeah, I mean, I like him too. I mean, there's some delivery issues. I mean, he's really coming down the mound at you. He slams the front leg and is like just flinging himself at hitters to a degree. But I mean, huge extension, huge riding fastball. Big rangy kid too. That looks like you can clean up the delivery a little bit, and things should get smoother as he gets a little bit stronger and more balanced in his lower half, and that should help his strike throwing as he goes. It's he's got the potential to spin a breaking ball. The feel for a changeup maybe is lacking, but I also I'm trying not to just give in entirely, but I'm finding it harder and harder to argue when the Tigers do something with a pitcher. So, you could nitpick. You can nitpick some things with him. I mean, he's a prep pitcher, but if he was a little smoother and a little bit less effort looking, he'd probably been top 15. To my eye, looking at him and looking at how his stuff grades out. So I'm pretty happy with that pick. It can get really boring when we start talking about money and bonus pools and stuff. I am a little interested in how they're going to kind of work this. Maybe they can get him under slot a little bit, but it just seems like the first 3 guys, they were just like, we're taking the guys we want. We'll figure it out later. Which is pretty much what they did last year. Like, the last 4 or 5 picks, like, to hell with them if we can't get there. So, we can talk about that if you want to, but yeah, I mean, overall, I really like it. I mean, he's got a long stride. He looks like he's just going to get stronger and more and better balanced in his lower half. That'll take a little bit of the pressure off some of that like slight head whack and just really aggressive, arm speed and upper body move into the motion. So I think they can clean all that up. This looks like a guy that kind of suits to me what they're good at, which is like just simplifying a guy's mechanics, building them up like full body, core, lower half, and he's got the breaking ball already. And then it's just can you find a changeup or a splitter, something that works with that? And we're seeing more signs that the Tigers are teaching some guys some pretty damn good split changeups. Reese Olson kind of came with a great changeup, but we've seen Job, we've seen Kader Montero in the last year develop one, and I mean the Skubal one in particular is just an absolute freak show. So I don't worry so much about that stuff as like in terms of a pitch to design sense, as long as you have the backspin. But I mean that's a big riding four seamer coming at you, and he can spin a breaking ball. So overall I'm pretty happy. And it seemed to me like as the draft went on, and and just like all the experts I listened to, and once you get past like 50, I'm lost pretty much. I just know who these guys vaguely are, and I won't pretend otherwise. But a lot of people really were pretty down on the hitters after the first round. But what I saw was most of the talent was in pitching. The Tigers leaned hard into that. So from a little bit more macro perspective, I'm pretty happy that they did that and they went that route. I think there's a lot that they got to work with here. Especially with Hall, but in several of the other guys later on that we'll get to.
What I like about Hall too is that the fastball's got that natural ride and sink to it, and the slider, it seems like it has that kind of slider cut up. Like we've talked about this pitch before with Jackson Jobe, but it's a slider, but it looks like a cutter too, like the way it's kind of like a hybrid with it. But if he's developing a splitter, that was something I was reading. Then look out. I mean, in terms of how his delivery is too, because his mechanics so repeatable. So if you're going to see that pitch, you're going to see a fastball going up, and then you drop down that slider or that split finger right there. I mean, like just a prime example right there on that strike, or like the strike there from high, and then just able to just, I don't know, his location, I thought for his age, the command was really good. And that what stood out from what I've been able to see, but splitter curveball, there is a lot to like. And then another thing too that I noticed, and this is something I did in my pitchers piece, they have a type a little bit, like the athletic type. I mean, that's why I thought Joey Oki, who, damn it, Cleveland sniped him, but I thought it'd be a guy who I thought would fit that kind of mold the Tigers are looking for.
So he's another guy that I went back and found the high school All-American game from this time last year. Not the perfect game one, but the one that's sponsored by Major League Baseball, and he got to pitch an inning there. And it was, I want to say he threw 20 pitches and like 18 of them were fastballs, and it looked like a 90-91 sinker, and then the 94 plus with ride up at the top of the zone, and looked good. He was throwing mostly strikes. He did get hit when he threw it low. But the main thing that stuck out to me, and just from watching that angle, is how slim he is. Like he's a guy that I think you could easily put 25 pounds of muscle on, and he could be sitting mid 90s and touching like 98, 99 with his arm action. And that I just want to say that they said he patterns his game after Walker Buehler. I don't know if it's one for one, but I could see it there a little bit.
Yeah, there's some similarities there. He presents as like I can't remember how tall Walker Buehler is, but he feels bigger to me. Like Hall feels big. Like, is he? Okay, yeah.
He's listed at 6'2", 185. I don't know if that's real.
Yeah, it's hard to know, but I mean, it just looks like there's plenty of room for muscle. He's got pretty skinny legs there, so give that guy a peach and some quads, build him up. And with the power base that built up, it's going to come easier to him. I when people talk about high effort, like you can clean some of that up, and some of that's just being young. Like they want you to air it out. You're trying to throw as hard as you possibly can at these things. That's just the way it is. So, the Tigers are getting him early. They're going to be able to clean up his mechanics early on. It's not like he's a guy who's going to go to college and throw 100 innings a year, a couple of years, and never really deal with some of these issues, and then come to you with a lot of wear and tear. He's right there for you, So I think it's good. I'm overall, and I think you guys are too, pretty content to see the Tigers go heavily prep going forward. It's just harder and harder to find values in college players, especially with the most well-known guys. All the data's there. Everybody knows what's what. And I mean, it feels like the Tigers are starting to do those things that we wanted them to do and that we've been looking for so long, which is that have development strengths first of all, which is crucial, and then draft to them. And that's kind of what they're doing here. And I agree, like throwing a hard, the hard breaking ball makes good sense. Like the hard gyro slider off that fastball should be perfect. And the Tigers seem to like, more and more, as you guys have mentioned with Job, like a pitcher that doesn't just throw one fastball type. Maybe it's a hard slider, maybe it's a cutter, Maybe it's like Olsen, who's using his sinker more than his four-seamer now and mixing in more changeups so that he's not, relying on that four-seamer too much when it's not really like the high IVB, high backspin type offering that gets tons of whiffs. So it's like the Tigers have that, like the high, velocity bandwidth where they want you to have two offerings that do something different from each other. And then, a true breaking ball, true changeup or split. And, the frame and everything just looks super projectable. So I'm pretty stoked. I'm pretty stoked about Hall. I was happy with that pick. I don't know so much about Schaffelbein, but
I dig him a lot. I think he's going to be. I think there are a lot of people who are really enjoying him when they dig into him more. He's it's different. It's a different profile than Hall in terms of he's got like really good feel to pitch for a kid this age, and he's pitched in big moments. I think he threw a one-hitter in the NHSI. I think his team beat Rayner's team to win the championship in California. He just knows how to pitch, man. And I've seen a couple interviews with him too, where he really like thinks about the game, and he was talking about how pitches work together and how you can, how you could, play them off each other and all this stuff. And he's not quite as projectable to me, I think, but maybe with, just that natural strength gains from becoming 18 to 22, 23, he might gain a tick or two. And so instead of sitting like 90, 91, he's like, 92, 93 and touching 95, 96 more frequently. And I think that would be really interesting because he also has feel to spin the ball pretty well.
Yeah, he does. It's kind of an interesting compliment to, to Hall in the way, it's almost the inverse, like taking the guy who's very polished and, the stuff just isn't that high powered, and trusting that the Tigers pitch lab can really dial up his stuff, improve his physicality, hopefully add a tick or two in velocity and be able to sustain that. But he does, he does have a lot to like. If you can just get his stuff boosted just a little bit, he already kind of throws enough strikes. He's all around the zone, and like you say, he can spin a breaking ball. So there's plenty of raw material there. I just had no idea who he was when they took him.
Yeah,
I barely noticed the name, and now I'm dreading typing his name for the next 5 years. Probably.
Yeah. So, and I think we'll probably won't know this for sure until we talk to him eventually, but I think his name is pronounced Schiefelbein. Like Schiefelbein.
There was a press conference with him today. I didn't get a chance. Had a world day, so I couldn't get a chance to get to. But I'm sure there was pronunciation. What's the first question?
Yeah.
But no, I was just gonna say the biggest thing was when I was looking at pictures. I did a quick profile. I thought that he would be just based off where the Tigers were scouting. But like that lengthy lefty, but just the way he's delivered, like just his finish, almost like he's like, I don't say short arm, but it's just like almost maybe it's just because he's pitching with against his teammates here. I don't know. It's really
smooth. Like it's like it just kind of
it is.
It doesn't like towards the end. It just looks like he stopped. I don't know how to explain it. It looks weird. Like it's just it's a funky looking thing to me. It's smooth, but what I mean is, it's like just
playing with timing.
Yeah, like right here, they're like that part. Like,
he likes to.
Yeah, and sort of like
sneaky fastball.
He turns his back to you. Yeah, he turns his back to you a little bit, and hopefully you see it a little bit late, especially right-handers.
But it just comes down so quick down the hill. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
he's slinging it free and easy. Yeah, he's slinging it pretty easily there, and he also looks like he could certainly add some muscle, and that's good to hear that he's super smart in terms of developing his stuff and trying to be the best he can be, and understanding how pitch design and all that works. So those are all good
he was
signs.
talking about. He was like, when I talk to big league catchers, I'm like, what are you doing? Like 17, 18, talking to big league catchers, but that's his thing. So he was like, talking to them about the interview I saw, and I don't know, it may have been the 108 performance thing that YouTube users talking about, but he was basically saying like, that the catchers, they want you to kind of use your two pitches the first time through the order, and then you can expand on that. And he had his, I don't know, I would recommend going to look at, because he was the way he was talking about using different kinds of fastballs was really interesting.
Yeah, actually, cool. I found that link, so I'll for anybody in the chat, I'll put the link in the chat for the 408 performance link in there. But anything else you guys want to add on before we move to Josh Randall?
No, I mean, it's like, I don't think there's a huge upside here, but I think you could pretty easily have yourself a back end starter. in a couple of years.
Yeah.
So that's pretty fun.
Yeah. And like, pretty easy relief projection too, just because he already, throws enough strikes and can command that many pitches. They should be able to figure something out within there.
Yeah. Give him a beard. And
maybe he'll have to go
mustache
max. Yep, grow his hair out, get a couple flame tattoos down the left arm. Oh yeah, you can go chafing. Yeah, that's for sure.
I like the fact that he's got he's Ethan has glasses or goggles. I don't know. Like I like the idea of rec specs, like the power that you don't
I
see
feel like that look.
And here we have Josh Randall, their fourth round pick, or I guess their fourth pick. Was he technically
it was
the
the
third
compensation. It was the compensation pick.
So yeah, Schleifelbein was compensation. So Randall's their third rounder.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's an interesting look for a pitcher, and interesting story too. I don't know if people read up on it, but he was a catcher in high school. It kind of reminds me a little bit of another pitcher from the San Diego area the Tigers took a few years ago. It was a catcher in high school. Barely pitched in his first 2 years in college. He was a reliever for Arizona and then missed almost all of his second season with a back injury, which is a little bit iffy, but came back, transferred to San Diego, was their Friday night starter. And they say it's just, bowling ball sinker, they keep saying, right? Like, up to 98 with a pretty good slider.
Yeah.
This is a guy, there's a good chance this guy could pitch this year, right? I mean, this is a guy could possibly see at Lakeland.
Yeah, I would think so. It depends. It's always tough. I don't know if San Diego made it into any kind of regional play or whatever. I didn't pay attention to that. So at this point, he's probably been shut down for close to 2 months. So it's always tough to know if they're going to build guys back up just to get him out there. But
looks like he's double clutching too when he hits his mitt like that.
But yeah, I mean, he really drops low, and then it's kind of like a low, almost sidearm arm slot. So it's I know there's kind of a relief look here, but apparently he's got feel for 3 pitches, so it might be kind of fun to develop him as a starter, see what you have.
Yeah, and it's sidearm too, but it's not long arm, which you don't see a whole lot. Like kind of a fairly compact, straight on arm stroke, but also lower than it looks like. I mean, he looks like he's going to throw 3/4 right to there. Yeah,
mm-hmm. He's got really good tailing action on. Yeah, a lot of his stuff has got really good tail action on there. But you guys see the spin there on that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which one was it? The slider?
Yeah, the slider was like 2709, something like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That'll work.
But yeah, they. I mean, we can talk macro at some point, but they really, maybe at the end of the discussion, but they really went heavy with pitching, which was again maybe just because the shape of this draft. But and then they followed that up with another Mike Massey, right, from Wake Forest, who is another kind of reliever look guy who was an absolutely dominant reliever last year at Wake Forest. And then they moved him to the rotation this year and didn't think it didn't go terribly well, but there's good stuff there. Like you see that high arm slot there. He apparently has a ton of IVB on the fastball.
Yeah, 20. I think I saw that he averaged. Am I right? He averaged.
I think
20,
you're right. Yeah,
which is outrageous. So yeah,
that's basically Jaden Hams. I think right around there.
Yeah.
So
and there are some vague similarities there, I would say. Yeah.
I will say this: that I don't know if I should be wary of Wake Forest pitchers, but Wake Forest has is well known for having basically a pro level pitching development studio or whatever you want to call it. So you do wonder if guys are basically maxed out, but at the same time, you're still pitching in college and you're still trying to win all these games. They don't have the luxury of, trying to let you work through issues the way they do in the minor leagues. So it'll be interesting to see if they move him as a reliever, if they try starting him for a while.
I know that I think it was Jim.
He doesn't look like he needs. He doesn't need that much more stuff. I was just going to say, but yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
I was going to say that Callis says that he would rather, he still thinks he has enough to stick around as a starter. That was something that both him and Jim or Jonathan Mayo were saying during the broadcast earlier.
Yeah, that's nasty. Yeah, I mean,
I think it's a worthy project. Yeah.
If it doesn't work out, you move him to the bullpen. That's fine, right? But you don't want to give up on a guy immediately.
And I also. And like in the guy's first offseason, I think developing him as a starter, just holistically, like from the whole way you're going to approach it is going to be better for him longer term than just like, okay, we're going to make you a reliever. You're probably going to start out, in Erie next year. And, we're going to hope that you can pitch for us, by the end of the season or something like that. And trying to just rush him with just the 4-seamer and the slider. You might as well try to develop it, try to build him up. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say there's a ton of projection there, but it looks like there's probably a little bit. And Tigers are good at this. Wake Forest is good at this. And that's why, that's probably why Massey has this monster IVB fastball, is because they know what they're doing there. But yeah, I mean, the Tigers have had pretty good success teaching changeups to guys who struggled to figure one out. So, they've got that going for them. So I think, it's a worthy project to give it a good try before you convert him back. Force him, put him in the mindset of all right, I've got to build up my conditioning. I've got to be out there for 5 innings. I got to try to pitch deep into games. And then if it's not working out, all right, just go back there and air it out. You'll be fine. But I think from a development standpoint, it's not a bad way to approach a kid in his first off season in pro ball.
Sure. Yeah.
As opposed to just throw the heck out of it.
Well, then this is a joke we were making earlier in Discord. The Tigers then went and were saving pennies when they drafted Jack Penny, who I couldn't find anything from Notre Dame. So this is him from his high school days. Actually played on the northeastern side of the country, so the Boston area, I believe. And he was drafted. I think he was injured. He was a junior out of Notre Dame. I think he was injured, I believe it was, or something along those lines. Yeah, something like that.
I didn't dig into him a ton because this is when they really started. Injury? Yeah, that could be. Okay. They really started saving money here in the middle of their draft. This was not a consensus day 1 or day 2 pick by any means. But there's some. It's an interesting profile because he never really hit for high average in college. It was 270 to 290, which is not high in college. But he always walked a fair amount, and apparently he makes pretty good swing decisions. And there's a little surprising amount of power. He hit 5 home runs in the Cape Cod League, which is 1 less than James Tibbs. Now who knows how real that is, but yeah, I mean it looks like an interesting kind of utility profile player with a little bit of contact and speed, and solid WAR guy, you would think.
And then here's a Woody.
Yeah, nothing that quite pops out enough to be like a Wenzel Perez type eventually. Doesn't have the tools that stand out for that. But yeah, kind of just all around solid guy who could probably play outfield, middle infield, or wherever.
And this is Woody.
Yeah, money saver.
This is another money saver too. Woody Hayden, who has really good contact rate, doesn't strike out a lot. But there was what was that stat, Chris, that he hits the less than 102 miles an hour?
Yeah, I think his 90th percentile exit velocity was 102, which is well on the low end. I think he only had a handful of home runs total in his entire college career, but he's a super contact guy, 90% plus contact rate, a little bit of speed. He had a shoulder injury, so he missed, I think, his junior season. So he's a little bit older. And there's there's not a ton. There's not much power there at all, obviously, but there's a little bit of speed, a little bit of defense. Another kind of utility guy, but one that, again, this is. I think we had a pretty good idea of what the Scott Harris, Mark Connor regime wanted in their drafts from last year. But this one, I think this draft kind of confirms it, is that they're taking contact-oriented players who play up the middle when they take position players, and that's. Hadeen fits that to a T. He just doesn't have any power to speak of. So maybe you can develop that in pro ball. And if you can, he's got the contact skills to maybe be a solid player. But I'm thinking he's another John Valenti here.
Yeah. I wonder, if they think something about the shoulder injury, that maybe they think they can get him a little bit stronger. But for the most part, it's in the it's in your hands and wrists. So. Yeah, unlikely he's going to develop a ton. I also read somewhere that he never pulls the ball, which doesn't help your top line exit velocities either. If you're not spinning your hips on things, you're not going to, you're just not going to hit the ball that hard. And he's apparently absolutely Captain Oppo to an extreme degree. So yeah, but yeah, makes a ton of contact, sprays the ball all over. I mean, you could view him as I don't want to call him a cheap Kevin McGonigal. Without power, but you know what I mean, that. But I think Kevin McGonigal does kind of set a bar for like you're saying, a certain type of player where they're just looking for guys who can play up the middle. That obviously what they want more power than Hadeen has, but yeah, contact guys playing up the middle with some speed.
Is it just bad?
And Scott Harris has said this over and over again. They want athletic guys. They want athletic guys who make contact and control the zone, and they figure they can develop out of that whatever else is needed. We'll see. Haven't seen that much evidence yet, but
I'm fascinated watching this Kings or the
Jackson Strong.
No, the guy. Oh, the guy pitching against Jackson.
Yeah, the pitcher
for the Keys.
Oh, he's got the old Hideo Nomo.
Yeah. I was saying, like, his hack keeps falling off every single time, and I'm just watching him pitch, and it was in pitch and relief, but I don't know who that guy is. But yeah, this is Jackson Strong. The Tigers and Chris and I both immediately, Northeast, New York. He went to, I can't say it right. Canisius, thank you.
At one point, where John Beeline coached in college basketball.
Yeah. Speed guy, makes a lot of contact. Basically, I won't say or guy, but
yeah, I mean, he's an interesting one to me. He's pretty young. He doesn't turn 21 until next month, and he showed some power and definitely some speed in college. I do think there's, with playing in, at Canisius, he's not facing a lot of top level talent. So I think you ultimately worry about the hit tool, but it's a well-rounded player otherwise that kind of reminds me of Ben Malgeri and Brett Callahan. These kind of do a little bit of everything college outfielders who, if things go right, maybe come up and are a fourth outfielder in the future, fifth outfielder in the big leagues, but probably won't hit enough, but should still be, like you said, like really solid org guys for multiple years.
Yeah, and getting them later on than Daniel Cabrera, as an example, like that's that kind of player, but you're finding those guys a little, later on in the draft rather than wasting, wasting picks on, someone who doesn't work out that way.
Yeah.
And never had huge upside to begin with.
There's not a lot of, I was going to say, there's not a lot of Ethan Sloan video. I mean, I think there's some stuff on Twitter, but I was trying to find some Ethan Sloan who they drafted out of
Regis University.
Yeah.
Never heard of that school.
Jay and David were hunting him down all day too, trying to find anything on him. There's not a lot.
I'll tell you, there's one big leaguer from Regis, Stephen Brault. I don't know if people remember him. I think he pitched for the Pirates, maybe. And Bill Murray went to Regis. He did not graduate from there, but he attended Regis University in Denver. So there's that. But this is a pure lefty reliever, right? This is another money saver. Interesting arm slot. We compared him, when I saw him pitch, I was like, it kind of reminds me of a little bit of Andrew Sears' arm slot, who they took around this range last year. And they're starting Sears down in Lakeland. He's having success, but I think there's probably too many walks for him to continue starting at higher levels. But interesting low slot reliever. So that's my thoughts with this.
I find guys like that. Yeah, and I find guys like that harder to like. I mean, it's always hard to figure out who's going to develop their command a lot, but especially with someone with kind of a funky, like snappy low slot delivery, I'm not exactly sure how you go about. I have like a very sort of classical mindset toward like how you would develop certain pitchers' mechanics. So yeah, but if he tops out at 95 and he's a lefty, and if he can spin anything, yeah, pretty decent lefty to land at that position, I'd say. But I don't know a whole lot about him. And
I don't know a lot about him either. I know his numbers were pretty good. I think is that a D2 school, right? Is that what it was?
I don't even know if it's D2
he was
or
another draft.
What
yeah, it's D2, but he was another draft league guy, which might be something we could talk about because they have kind of tried to find a couple of late bloomers the last two seasons. Seems to be a little bit of a theme for them, trying to save money and find a guy who maybe no one had paid any attention to yet. I don't know.
Yeah,
potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's how they got Cenk Diaz last year. As they saw him, they may have seen him before that, but I think they did see him in the draft league. And yes, Jackson Strong did commit to playing at Kentucky next year. He was going to transfer to Kentucky, but if you get taken in the first 10 rounds, there's like a 99.9% chance you're going to sign. So he may get full slot. He may be one of the few in this range who gets a full slot bonus. But
I had a few people kind of like, oh, we're not going to be able to sign Rayner. He can just go back to college if they don't pay him. And it's like, you just have to think about it you have to think about it this way. Are you going to turn down $5.7 million to hopefully make 8 in 3 years? No.
Yeah, no. There's no way. And there was the talk about him getting overslot, and it's possible that he gets like $6 million, right?
Right.
But yeah,
his agent told him to say that.
Yeah. Now, if you like, again, you're coming down to it, are you going to not go to pro ball over $300,000 or whatever? Because $5.7 million is still quite a bit of money, and I don't think the Tigers are going to lowball him or anything like that. But it wouldn't shock
Take
me
that.
if he doesn't.
You just put that in Bitcoin. You'll have 8 million, and
By the way, who knew about the Jackson Strong? Apparently, I didn't know that he strongly committed to Kentucky in the portal. So thank you, Jay.
Yeah.
I did not.
No, that's what I just said.
Oh, well, I was totally
1 minute ago.
100% zoning out there for one. I apologize.
That's all good. But yeah, so I don't know.
Because Alan said something in the chat, and then I was looking at trying to find the Ethan Sloan video. So
yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's tough. I know you're up there producing, so it's hard to find video of a guy from Regis Philbin University.
I'm still mixing all these guys up in my head too. It's like, it's just like this flood of information over the past 24 hours where I'm like, wait, am I talking about the right guy? Or
and then came arguably the maybe not arguably the most interesting pick of the day, because I think a lot of us had kind of presumed that they didn't have any money left after going prep at the top. But then they come and get another really interesting arm in Zach Swanson, who's got like I said, there's a lot of interesting stuff there, but also a lot of work to be done. I think that he has even more mechanical issues. I think a lot more mechanical issues than Owen Hall. There's he's got a pretty wicked head whack. There's his arm feels like his arm lags behind his body, but he was like a basketball player, and you could find like some pretty lousy basketball highlights of him on YouTube. I mean, not lousy, like he looks like he's a decent player, but like he's not going to. You guys play D1 or anything like that?
Chris, do you remember the game? You remember Punch Out for Nintendo?
Absolutely.
That head whack reminds me of the German boxer Von
Kaiser.
Von Kaiser. Doesn't he look like Von Kaiser with the head whack, like the
yeah, little
little head whack? Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, given his head whack and Hall's head whack, it seems like they don't really worry about that. Like it's something that they feel like they could fix. But
I mean, they fixed Flores.
He's also got Yeah, I mean, some of it is lower half too. I mean, he's got like pretty. I mean, he hasn't been pitching that long, but he's got pretty tight hips. He doesn't really sink down that much until he's already sort of falling forward. I mean, there's all kinds of details, but I think the crucial things are that he can spin the crap out of a breaking ball.
Yeah,
and he's got a pretty good riding fastball. So that's that's quite a bit to work with in a prep pitcher, even in the second or third round.
Yeah, so, I mean, he is a guy that
he's a rail. There's plenty of projection.
He could have easily have gone in like the third or fourth round, like if somebody liked him, and I'm assuming that he's going to get a bonus of like $500,000 at least here in the ninth round.
Yeah,
who knows? Maybe more, maybe less.
Colt Keith money.
Yeah. So I mean that was it's a little bit scary when you take three like your three big swings are all prep pitching. But there's also kind of, safety in numbers, I suppose. Maybe you figure one of these guys is going to work out. Now, they could all break. We were talking to our friends from the Guardians who were a little bit bummed out, too, because they spent almost all their extra money on prep pitching, and their history with prep pitching isn't great, apparently. But, there's something to like about all three of these high school pitchers they took.
It's been kind of an interesting draft that way too, because it's from what I'm reading, there's still like plenty of guys that prep players that were mocked in the top 150 who haven't been taken yet, and I don't know. It seemed like the last couple of years have been more and more a move toward everyone going prep heavy early, and this year I don't know, it didn't seem to happen, and maybe that might just be the class itself, of course, but there's still kind of a lot of interesting guys available, but I didn't really expect someone like him to come along at that point that they would take. It'll be really interesting to see how they piece this all together again. It was pretty fascinating last year. So
I mean, Dax Whitney was a kid I loved and I wanted in like the second round, and he's still available. So you assume he's getting to college, but every now and then, somebody just like, they have a change of heart and somebody has $750,000 or whatever to hand out tomorrow. And it'll be interesting to see where he goes.
And then the last,
or you just you just blow through the tax threshold, and and then like a bunch of random money just appears in his Venmo. Who knows? No one needs to know about these things. Looking right at you, Dodgers, when I say this. Anyway,
and we should say that this video, Braves. I don't know for people watching, I don't know when this video was, but I think he's throwing a good deal harder than this now. Like he's probably sitting 91 and touching 94 instead of
this is 7 months ago.
So I don't know if he's 80, 88, 91 now. It's probably more 91, 94, but we'll see.
That's what that's what Jay had on him. So yep, I'm gonna bet that's correct. Yeah, he's touched 95, 96, but it's pretty much 92 for the most part right now.
There's I was trying to find there's not a lot of video. I was trying to find something on RJ Styles, but instead I found something else that I think that kind of helps with the comp wise. So let's see here if I can let me get this going here.
Mike Tyson's punch out. There he is.
I mean, look at that. The little head whack. That's just a
just a head nod.
Yeah.
Yeah. RJ Sales is another pitcher. Where was he? He was at Wilmington. He's another guy who missed his entire sophomore season, basically. But interesting, when we talked to Jeff from Locked On Guardians or whatever, he was saying that he kind of stuck out to him a little bit because he didn't give up a lot of hits. He thought that was something that you could kind of look at a pitcher and find something interesting. And he did walk a fair amount of guys. So there's a little bit of risk there. And he's not a big dude. He's like 6 foot 170. But it sounds like there's 3 pitches there. It's a low 90s fastball, a cutter, and a pretty good curveball, it sounds like. So I don't know. And 10th rounder, who knows?
Not too much mileage on him. Not too much mileage on him. Had TJ already. Got that out of the way. So yeah, another one that makes a lot of sense is like a project arm type. So not just like a guy who maybe only needs a little bit of cleanup, but has a lot of raw material to work with. So
yeah,
we'll just have to put our faith in the Tigers pitching gurus. That's a pretty
decent depth in the breaking ball there. Yeah.
There wasn't, unfortunately, I couldn't find much else there outside of the stuff he had in high school. So I would really want to,
and so they really went heavy on the arms. And you could argue that the system kind of needs that in the lower to mid levels, right? After Jaden Ham there in high A, it's there's not a whole lot going on. You got Melton in Double A, Job in Double A. Of course, Job should be, in the big leagues. But so it'll be a
lot of good arms at Lakeland. Yeah, a lot of good arms at Lakeland and the SCL, but nobody that's really known yet or is like full bore broken out. But we've talked about Sears, Miller, Castillo. Hayden Minton actually is a pretty good arm. There's a lot of good arms. They all need copious work, but that's okay. That's what's supposed to happen now.
So that's the draft breakdown. We I don't know if anybody has anything else to say about that.
Cheers to the Detroit degenerate.
Yeah.
He walked in and he's like, what the hell? He was walking into the bond.
Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson. Montage. I do want to, like, we're talking about, speaking of Lakeland, by the way, I did talk about Gabriel Reyes a little bit before we end the podcast. Because I'll be honest with you, the rest of the, like, in terms of,
I didn't do the slides from the minor leagues. I didn't pay attention to the records. I know West Michigan got smoked by Wisconsin.
Yeah.
There was some good offense in Toledo.
Let's just watch Gabriel Reyes because I can watch this guy pitch all day.
And I hadn't really paid him any attention. I was sort of like, the whip is pretty impressive here.
It's another fun arm down there. It's kind of short slider that can kind of mold into a cutter at times, but get some swings and misses. And the fastball has some hop to it, and he's got a changeup. It's I think it's probably a reliever. But just a fun arm to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of a loose arm type guy that you wouldn't necessarily project a ton of command on, but I don't know. He's pretty fun to watch, that's for sure. And I mean, if he could sort of like turn the breaking ball into 2, differentiate it into more of like the cutter or sweeper type, and then a straight downer, more of a curve, that might be good to pair with the 4-seamer because he looks like he's got pretty good ride on it.
And the one thing we talked is he throws a fair amount of strikes. Like he's not out there walking a ton of guys. It's it's not necessarily pinpoint command, but he's generally within the zone.
Yep.
Oh, getting an ABS strike there.
Got him.
Yeah, and we should mention that Max Clark and Hao Yuli were in the futures game. Max Clark went 1 for 4, I believe, and had a couple interviews where you see the personality and you see a lot of what I think the Tigers were hoping to see when they got him in terms of the person, and the baseball's coming along pretty nicely as well.
it was really interesting hearing him like stand in the batter's box and break down the pitcher that he was about to face, because it was pretty comprehensive, and you could just, he just exudes like this kid grew up all around pro ball, and he didn't, but he does kind of have that feel of like, is this a, coach's or a player's son? He kind of feels like that kid. So thanks.
Yeah. And I will say that he got rung up, called third strike on a pitch that was probably 2 inches above the zone. And then he tried to challenge it, but I think they'd already used their challenges. So it was a bummer, but he's got a pretty good idea of the zone.
I will say this. He is very well spoken for his age. I mean, it's just like, to me, a lot of these kids, like yesterday, for example, you could tell that
Bryce Rayner.
Wow, Bryce Rayner. You could tell he needs a little polish. He hasn't done a lot of these interviews yet, and the time will come. I guarantee you, a year from now, under the tutelage of Mr. Fileman, that he will be a different person altogether. But Max Clark is personality plus, and I think that it's just, to me, what I like about him, and this is the same thing. He knew when the Tigers drafted him last year, the white man for Bill and all that jazz, and he's been able to go out there and let his game speak for itself.
People are
lighthearted.
Yeah, and along those lines, and I don't know if this was last week or this week, I forgot. We put that highlight of Kevin McGonigal falling after scoring. I think that was this week.
Yeah,
the Kevin McGonigal. I don't know if you want to, if you can find that.
I'll pull up right now. Yeah.
It was just kind of funny because we normally just post highlights, right? But I thought it was a funny play, and they won that game, and they were playing well, and McGonigal falls down, and we tweeted about it, and McGonigal retweeted it and laughed about it, and Max Clark retweeted and laughed about it. It was like, okay, these kids are like, they don't take themselves too seriously, and that's
didn't you critique the landing too, right? Didn't you critique the landing?
Yeah, he was asking if he was safe, because he just tripped over his foot. It like fell like he was sliding into home plate, and I don't know if everybody got to see it or not, but it was pretty funny.
And they're just much more natural, like interacting with the media, being on social media. Like, Max Clark kind of acts like the Tigers' young mayor in a certain sense.
Yeah.
Like, I think just about the first bunch of guys that got picked, at least all the prep guys, I saw him reaching out to people and, hey, what's up? And, Joe did the same thing for a couple of the pitchers. The Tigers are trying to cultivate that kind of, team attitude all the way down, to the beginnings of the system. Max Clark just feels like he's just naturally that dude. That assuming he makes it and the things are trending well, he's going to be like team spokesman, the dude who doesn't shut up in the locker room that everybody likes, but is sort of the face of the franchise type guy. He does have all those vibes, and he does also, I have to say, he also looks like a Baltimore Oriole. And there were a lot of hilarious jokes about the fact that
with the blondes,
drafting,
they drafted a bunch of blondes.
Dude,
So here's
there was some meme going around like, I'll take 5 more of these little blonde fellows.
These guys don't look so tough. Yeah. But Kevin McGonigal commenting in there. I mean, we forgot that too. He was on the podcast, by the way. We just we're having some audio issues, or I think he was having some audio issues, so it doesn't come through. But yeah, I wish I could pull let's see if I can view. Oh, here it is. I can view closer right here. So even the announcer from Lakeland gets in on it. But here's Max Clark, 10 on 10 execution, 10 aura.
Aura, exactly.
Safer out there. So look at the jump. Yeah, and then John Verberg, classic Verberg right there. Giving his analysis right there. It was cool.
Yeah, it's just it's fun. Like I said, it's fun to see those kids not taking themselves too seriously, and we fully expect them to be in West Michigan soon. Right after this draft, you would think. We don't know for sure. We thought a couple weeks ago,
please,
but it's the All-Star break now. There's a couple days off anyway. It's probably time to do it. So
By the way, Jonathan wants to know how often we're live. So, Jonathan, we're live every Monday night at 9:00, and then on our Motor City Metrics podcast, we're live every Thursday at 9:00. So, you can find us live.
I didn't even notice Jay was filling up the.
Jay's been
He wrote half my articles at least. Yeah, more of them.
He's the mayor. Jay is the mayor of the. You know what? If Jay wants to be a moderator during Monday night chats, by all means, make him. He can be a moderator. That's fine. He can kick people out. Give him that power.
Kick people out. Yeah. Pick the questions that he wants us to answer.
Yeah. We had to kick out a a couple times the Jizz Master. I mean, this guy's name was the Jizz Master, like something Jizz, and it was
yeah.
It
I
was good though. I mean, it was a good thing. So
you have to, yeah.
Ooh, yeah. Thank you. My wife wants to tell you everybody to send a reminder to watch every show. So yes. So yeah, that's a good idea.
Normally we just we'll recap the Tigers and talk about what happened in the minor league system, and this is one time where we didn't really give a whole lot of attention to the minor league system, which is, I don't know. Maybe that's bad for us to do that, but
that's right. That's just
we'll see.
We're all just waiting for the transition here, this is the time of year when you just leave the prospects aside for a second. You assess what you've had the first half. You remake your your midseason list, which you guys have already done, and just kick back and enjoy All-Star week, and then we'll get back at it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have anything new to say about the Tiger system that happened in the last 3 days, so other than the draft. So
I got literally after this, I'm not going to probably talk again unless at work. Until I'm talked out. Like you can hear my mouth like blah, blah, the diarrhea right now. It's been.
I'm sure you're on next level, but I am exhausted as well. It's just it's just a lot. It's just
we still got written components to do too in the next couple days. So, but on that note, thank you so much for watching. Also, thank you for donating too. We got a lot of donate. We had a couple donations yesterday, some huge donations. Thank you. So if you feel like donating, go to the PayPal. That is on our. You know what? I always forget to. Well, I wasn't doing it this evening because I just wanted to really go into the show stuff. But see here, where is it? My banner. Oh, here it is. Yeah. So if you go to PayPal, donate. You can donate to all the stuff we do, and more than likely, I'm actually going to take Thursday off, Chris. So if Uper and Mike wants to do a show, I don't think.
There's not a whole lot to talk about. We're going to talk about the All-Star game. I mean, we should.
No show.
Yeah. This is a good time to take a break, guys. Take a break.
Yeah.
Trust me, I've been doing this a long time. This is the time.
I need a break. And so
there will be 10 more picks tomorrow. There might be we should talk about these guys, but generally speaking, I mean, if it's like last year's 11 through 20 was kind of interesting. They took another 4 or 5 prep players. I don't think they have the money to do that this year, but again, we don't know yet. I've toyed around with trying to figure out their bonus pool math, and it's hard for me to get it to where they have anything more than like 15 grand left. But who knows?
And I just get the feeling they're not going to care. They're just going to take the next handful of the best players that they can get, and if they can't sign a whole bunch of guys after that, they don't care at all, and that's probably fine because. The minor leagues have contracted. There's not that extra level. So maybe, just keep emphasizing quality over quantity.
Yeah. And this is the one last thing I'll say. And I think I might've mentioned it yesterday. I don't, we talk forever, but the one thing, they went and took a bunch of high school players in the 11th through 20th round, and they signed a couple of them. In one of them, I think Jonathan Rogers, I think he got like $50,000 or something like hardly anything more than what you are allowed to get. In those rounds, and what they did is the scouts went out and found a high school kid who just wanted to play pro ball, which is something that the Avila front office never ever did. Really, they would take high school kids for big bonus money, but never went out and found those kids who are interesting but maybe not high profile, but just want to play pro ball and take a chance on some kids like that with your dev staff and see what you can get. So we might see 1 or 2 of those tomorrow.
Jonathan Rogers,
and that kind of and that's a strength of having scouts still. Some of the teams that have really gone away from any in-person scouting, that is an area where they lose some feel for the player and the signability and interest in playing pro ball immediately. So the fact that the Tigers are trying to do both and still have the old school scouting combined with the new, I still think is pretty smart strategy rather than just ditching it the way like Houston or a couple other teams did.
Yeah. So Jonathan Rogers, he signed for 150. Which is the most you can give. I mean, it's you can give 150 to everybody you take between the 11th and 20th round, and most high school kids expect more than that too, to not go to college. But he was like, "Yeah, that works. I'll go play pro ball," and he's been interesting this year. It's fun.
Yeah.
He's still in. I think he's still in rookie ball, right? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he just had his he'd been pitching really well, and then his last outing was kind of a blow up. I don't only think he made it through an inning, but other than that, he's been pitching well.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get some more time with him. See him out there. Joey, by the way, how many draft picks we'll see actually play this season?
It's tough with the number of pitchers they took. Like we said earlier, you never know what if guys are going to ramp back up, if they want them to throw it all. I would think we might see the 2 infielders and the outfielder. So Strong and Hadeen and Penny, probably see them.
Yeah.
But other than that, I would I'd put the over under at like 3.5.
3.5.
Probably 4.5. We'll go 4.5.
I just think because if you're gonna have McGonigal and Clark, those guys go to West Michigan, and you're gonna see some of these college like either maybe Power, maybe you see Hadeen go to West Michigan. Too aggressive an assignment.
I don't
Lakeland.
know.
I'm sorry. Go to Lakeland. I'm Lakeland.
No, yeah. College guys go to Lakeland. I think Callahan got to Lakeland last year, and maybe not. I don't know. He did. And I think Jarvis did too. Maybe. So
maybe maybe Fana and Montia will go to Lakeland. We can dream on that if you want to have some dreams for Lakeland.
Nice.
Yeah. Please. I don't know if that's going to happen, but
Montia, let that happen. Let's speak that into his existence. So, but we'll see you. You know what? We're not. No show Thursday. We'll see you next week. Enjoy the All-Star break. Enjoy whatever you decide to do. I know that I'm going to sleep. On that. I forgot Saturday, Chris.
We got softball on Saturday.
Yeah, so we're doing a celebrity. Well, it's the Vito from Detroit Sports Podcast is hosting a tournament, like a softball thing for kidney research, and so Chris and I are going to be out there along with Chris Castanelli and
a glove.
Yeah. Dude, we hit the cages. You got to come over and hit the cages, dude.
All right. Yeah. I haven't. The only glove I have is the one that my dad used to play catch with me when I was a kid. It's the only one that fits me, and the webbing is out of it, so it's like an old 1930s glove with just fingers.
Chris Brown, you need to treat yourself. You need to get yourself a nice glove.
Yeah. I need to get a job. But anyway.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk to you next week. Have a good week, everybody.
Thanks, guys.